Yo guys, what is good? I hope you're all doing absolutely amazing and are trading safely in the markets. It's your boy VGOK and I'm back with another case study video for you guys today. Now I apologize, obviously I've taken a bit of a break from uploading, but I am planning to do some really important videos and get some really important videos recorded and edited and obviously posted for you guys for the Christmas sort of break. So there'll be a lot of content coming your way. But in today's video, I'm going to be going over a full trade breakdown of a 1 to 100 sell scenario on US30. It was executed within New York session, and there was also another entry which I had that was a 1 to 65 risk to reward ratio as well. Now, this was an actual example of a redistribution type of trade. So it was within a bearish market. Obviously, US30 at the moment is in that bearish sort of run at the moment. So naturally we're going to be looking for more sell scenarios. But without any further delay, let's get straight into the analysis. So jumping straight into those screenshots for this US30 trade, as you guys can see, the purple box that I have outlined, that is the main point of interest I was sort of basing this sell scenario on. We have that drop, base, drop sort of formation on the 15-minute, I think it was. On the 5-minute, we can see it's a lot more broken down into this redistribution that occurred within here, and that took out a previous zone of demand as well. So we get that movement down, that drop, base drop. We then get price coming back up into the zone to retest the supply. We then get positive movements away, and then within this movement here, we get a really nice break of structure to the downside. So that is our before screenshot. And then again, I did have two entries for this trade. The first entry was sort of based off of the start of this black box right here. So over here I've put my entry zone. So around this point, this was where I was looking to take my market executions. So yeah, there was a sort of entry that I took right there. And these were the two entries that I ended up taking in the end. So it was sort of the start of this bullishness before it sold off here. So the open of this first candle right here was the first entry, and the second entry was actually based off of the 1-minute time frame, which I'm going to show you guys in just a sec. And here we have the final sort of, well, to be honest, it exceeded my final TP. My final TP was sort of, in this at the start of this purple zone right here. As you can see, there are the sells that we took yesterday. Obviously, the time of recording this video is Friday the 26th of November. The actual trade was executed on the Thursday, so the day before yesterday. And the final TP was meant to be around here, but I did leave half the position running overnight, and sort of when I woke up in the morning, we started to see just to sort of see where the position was at, what sort of risk to rewards we were sort of looking at. We had this sort of bullish point of interest being formed, and we started to get positive sort of mitigations in this area. So when those positive mitigations started to happen, I looked to close out the trade, and that in the end gave us a risk to reward ratio of a 1 to 100 and a 1 to 65 risk to reward ratio, which was absolutely fantastic. Now also I'm going to pop up on the screen right now the before photo of the actual MT4 screenshot as well, just to show where I got that second entry based on that 1-minute time frame off that buy before sell candle. Into the actual trading view analysis so we can have a full breakdown, a full look at how this sell scenario actually played out. And as you guys can see on the screen right now, the move down that we caught, the sell-off that we caught, was this movement down in here. So it was this from this lower high to this lower. That was the sort of move that we caught. And as you guys can see on the daily time frame, there is still further room for it to go lower. On the daily time frame, I'm looking at this point of interest for the sells to start slowing down and potentially seeing some sort of buying in this zone, potentially seeing some sort of accumulations forming within this point of interest. But breaking it down to the actual day of the trade execution, I'm going to jump it into the 4-hour time frame right now. And as we can see, I'm going to turn the kill zones off for a sec. Now, as we can see, just breaking down the actual market structure of of the US30 market. Now what we can see, so obviously we've got this high point in here, and we have a low, and then we have a lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, and then it starts to consolidate in this region right here. We can see on the 4-hour time frame. So as we step it down into the 2-hour, we can start to really see what sort of mitigations were really happening. Was this the actual lower high to create a lower low? In theory, yes, it was, because it was a lower high than the previous one, and it went on to create a lower low lower than the previous one. So technically it is, but did it actually fully mitigate all of the imbalance, all of the sort of institutional candle in that sort of initial move down? So moving it into the 1-hour, we can actually fully start to see things in a lot more detail. And obviously this was the sort of lower high that we were talking about right there. And for this to be a lower high, we did kind of get relatively equal highs in that point. So there is a chance where we could see price coming higher up into this zone. And the initial sell zone, which I had marked up, I believe it was based off of the 30-minute time frame. Yeah, I think it was the 30 or probably the 15-minute, but yeah, we'll go with this on here. And this was the initial zone that I was looking to sort of really see price get into. And yeah, it was off the 15-minute time frame. We had that drop, and we had the slowdown of price, the base, and then the drop off further, which took out these previous zones of demand. So that was the zone we were looking to get into and play. Of course, the lower high that we were talking about didn't quite get into there. Didn't really punch up into there as much. But when we actually start to see what happens following, all that consolidation we're talking about on the 4-hour and the daily time frame, we can start to really see how price really reacted and how it really got up into that zone eventually. So it gets right up into that 15-minute zone right there. And when we see that happen, I'm going to go to the 5-minute time frame right now, just to see that obviously the price action is going to be a lot easier to see now. It's starting to get that bearish movement of price. So you can see, it's getting up close to the zone there, higher low, higher high. As soon as it's made that higher high, it breaks down with a lot of momentum. There's these strong 3 bearish candles in here, closes below this previous significant higher low. So there was your break in structure, and then obviously the imbalance fill, of course, was coming in around here. So obviously the imbalance fill was there. So that would be the next zone, and you could have placed some sort of entries around this area. Of course, this was at 7:50 in the morning, so I may not have been awake at that time. But looking on at this, as we continue, obviously you can see the entries which I look to take over here, and at this point I'm going to put the kill zones back on so we can sort of see the time of day. So the start of London session, pre-London session I'd say, because obviously London session starts at 8 AM. So pre-London session around 7 AM, it gets into that zone. We start to see bearish movement of price, positive breaks of structure, and mitigations, forcing price even lower. So we know we've got proof that this supply is very valid. It's causing price to go lower. It's causing price to create those lower highs and lower lows, which we like to see in a downtrend. So as we see further what happens, and looking at the major higher lows and higher highs in that uptrend we were looking at before, what we can see, we've got this low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Obviously then we've got the higher lows and higher highs that follow into that supply zone. So they're the significant ones, and as we can see, this one here really created that really significant obvious higher high. Now the movement that took this out, obviously when I was starting to look at the charts around sort of that 9-10 AM, couldn't really see any good opportunities within here. Would have wanted it to come slightly higher up, maybe fill in the imbalance that exists within there and then drop, but we didn't get that. Instead what we get is this drop, base drop. Obviously we saw it on the 5-minute time frame before on the screenshots. We're going to change it to the 15-minute, and on the 15-minute we can actually see a more obvious drop. You see the base with the doji there, and the other sort of bearish candle just there with the wick to the upside. So that's acting as our base. So the drop, base, drop, that takes out this previous significant demand. This was demand because it caused higher highs. So we've got that as our point of interest, and then like I was breaking down earlier, what we can see, obviously the first entry was based off of the 5-minute time frame. So if I slide this to the right a little bit so we can see the 2 separate entries, and so we had price coming up into that drop, base drop. We had movement down, didn't really break structure, For it to break structure, it has to challenge this low here. It either has to make equal lows. Obviously, that's what it did in this scenario, or it has to break below it. So we had this movement down in here. We got a mitigation of that, and then it went to go down even lower. It didn't really mitigate this. It made equal lows of this. So it made a liquidity zone sort of with that low there. And that gave me enough sort of confidence to go for this trade. So obviously having the first entry, as you can see, the start of the bullishness before it really sold off. And we can see the entry was at the open there and the stop loss just at the highs right there. So that was about a 13-point stop for US30. And sort of the second entry which we had, obviously as we saw price get into this first entry, we did see it move down slightly with that wick, so we did get positive movement, but then we did have one more push to the upside. You know, it was in a bit of drawdown at one stage and before it really dropped. But as we look into the 1 minute time frame and look back obviously at our entry, we can see obviously where we roughly took the second entry as well. And the second entry, you know, when we start to break down, look into these lower time frames of obviously the 5 minute buy to sell was just 2 candles, but when we go into the 1 minute time frame, we can see in detail, you know, how those candles are sort of made, what they're made up of, what they're broken down into. So obviously my second entry, we can see right here, the major bullishness before it sold off in that move was this candle right in here. So I was looking to take my second entry based off of that sort of zone, and obviously as we move it across over there, that was the entry that we got. Again, this went into slight drawdown as well before, you know, fully moving down. So we had that downwards movement in there, that good bearish movement of price, and you know, we were in profits at that point. And then at that point, you know, I was moving my stop loss at a reduced risk, so not a risk-free trade just yet. I was moving my stop loss just to this high right here to keep it protected. You know, slightly less risk is sort of involved in the trade. And as we sort of look at how we established our take profits, our profit zone, so we're going to be looking at obviously the 15-minute time frame, I think. Now, yeah, so the 15-minute time frame, you know, my first TP was you know, looking to be taken in this zone right here. So at this zone right here, that was the first TP, and that was roughly around, I'm going to go off obviously the second entry right here. That was roughly where it was. So first TP we were looking at around a 1 to 12, 1 to 11, 1 to 12 roughly. So that was a really nice first TP. As soon as that first TP was hit, I moved the trade to a risk-free position, so the stop loss was in a slight bit of profit because we'd broken below. The market is creating lower lows. So that was the first TP, and then the second TP, obviously like I sort of analyzed beforehand, you know, I was looking at this rally-based rally in here, so that was the second TP in here, and obviously overnight that did get hit as well, so the second TP was hit quite nicely around about 4 in the morning, so that was the second TP right there. And then the final TP which I have, obviously it's not been met yet, but I have taken considerable profits already. I've got about maybe, you know, 10-15% of the initial positions running right now, but the final TP I'm looking to take is going to be down here in this daily sell to buy region down in here. Now if it does reach that sort of zone at the daily candle down there, then you know, we're going to be looking at a monstrous sort of risk to reward ratio. So obviously we've got one of the positions running at that I closed most of it off at 1 to 68. Now that could be running up to a 1 to 92, 93 roughly, and the other position that could be running up to a 1 to 137, or almost a 1 to 140 pretty much, down to that daily zone. So you know, there's a lot of potential still for this trade to, you know, provide more you know, more profits, but at the moment, you know, I've taken a lot of the profits off the table, and to be honest, most of my profits that I took was based on obviously the 1 minute time frame from today's price action. You know, like I said in the screenshots earlier, we had this rally, base rally, that's taken out this previous you know, significant lower high, and as we can see, we started to get positive mitigations of this. So once price got to around this area again, I was looking to take the majority of my profits in that zone. So there we have that full breakdown of that US30 sell scenario, which in the end, you know, I took majority of my profits out at that 1 to 100 mark. You know, it's just that round number. It was probably one of my best trades so far. So yeah, I took most of my profits out at that 1 to 100, and obviously the first entry which we took hit that 1 to 65 roughly. But yeah, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. You know, if you guys really enjoyed this video, then please do give it a like, and if you're new around here, please hit that subscribe button as well, and please do hit the bell to turn your post notifications on so you guys know exactly when I'm coming out with a brand new video. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time for more of that trading sauce.